people who can't join, they can catch up. Here's the plan for today. And so I thought it'll be a good idea to quickly start with top three news. And there is a reason why I'm starting there, because this space is moving so fast. And then some of those capabilities that we may have talked earlier, they are also evolving. Okay. And then we'll look into what those are, and then what are some of those few things that were not a trend, they become a trend now. So I'll try to explain, connect some dots there, why that is happening. Okay. Then I mentioned in the last class that we'll start to touch on the AI agents, because this is a form of AI. So we'll spend some time in there. And then if we have time left, then I want to go into more of the how do you start to prep for interviews these days? Okay. Because what I'm seeing is more and more questions are coming or getting asked during interviews that are related to AI. I call this AI fluency or AI knowledge, or a kind of the basic AI understanding. So this will be a bit of an ongoing topic as we touch on, let's say, certain areas, and then we reflect back that what sort of questions I might get asked, let's say if I am looking for a job change, or and I'll share some of the questions that I ask when I interview people, when I hire, because in an interview you only have 45 minutes, and then you want to basically ask a bunch of other questions, but you also want to ask about AI. So what are some of those the quick 5-10 minutes thing where I need to get confidence whether this particular candidate who is interviewing for in my team, whether they are a good fit or not, right? What tools they know, what's the depth of their knowledge, so on and so forth. Okay. So let's start with the top three news. Here's my top three pick. Have you heard of vibe coding recently? This last 2 weeks, this became a rage, and I'll explain what that is. Go ahead.
No.
Yeah. Okay. So then probably I should have this section every week because these things starts to define some of where the space is going. Okay. So we'll look into what is vibe coding at a very high level. If you look at just the name here, vibe means like, hey, just kind of, I have a feeling, should I build this app or should I do this? Can I code it? I'm not a coder. I'm not a software developer. Okay, so that's the gist of it. I'll show you a demo, live demo. Another thing that is super hot these days is, and specifically in the last 2 weeks, if you are on LinkedIn or go anywhere, its word thrown around is MCP. MCP is Model Context Protocol. Okay, so so the question becomes what that is, why am I putting this in here from learning standpoint. So basically, again, at a high level, and then we go into little detail for each of them. Model Context Protocol allow your AI to connect to data, whether it's internal data or external data. Okay, so this is, think of as the next evolution for your RAG. Okay, do you guys know about RAG a little bit?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, a little bit, but not much.
Yeah. So see, the way to think about this is you have, let's say, if you follow my hand, right? So let's say you have AI. Okay, let's say AI package, and then you have your data. When I say your data, means, for example, your files in a company environment. You have your SharePoint or wherever your company is storing data. Now, how this AI, when you ask a question, should answer from your data, and data could be internal, data could be external. So that's what RAG was, retrieve augmentation generation. So that's RAG stand for. And then now in agent world, which we will learn a little bit more today, this MCP is becoming a requirement because how these agents, different agents can get the data. Another thing is let's look into some of these big announcements that happens. The reason I have this is my top 3 is this last week NVIDIA had the conference, and then there's a lot of innovation happening on hardware as well. Okay, so we should look at we should learn a lot more software, but just have basic understanding of what's happening at the hardware level. You guys remember I was like keep using this word AI sandwich. Okay, so what I mean is there's a hardware, there's a data, then there is all these kind of AI pieces, and then there's a use cases. Okay, so let's look into what is kind of the vibe coding. So this name, fancy name. It's end of the day. It's just, you want to code, you want to build something, and but the good news is bunch of tools, the purpose-built tools that are coming, that are becoming available. So if you look into this picture here, all of these are different tools. Okay, V0, Super Whisper, Cursor, Bolt, and Lovable. The reason it got a new name, my hypothesis is as like, hey, I'm a business user, I don't understand how to code, but I want to build something, right? I want to build a website, or I want to build I don't understand front end, how to design. Forget about the coding. I don't even know how to kind of design things. I cannot use Figma or any of those tools. Now, the tools you see, I'll show you a demo of one of them. You can literally tell hey, I want to build this app, and it will give you a fully. So what that means, it will design it for you. It will create the engineering, which means software development. For example, if I rename this to development, and then can also test it for you. So that's super cool, because now it's a full stack for me. And it's not like I'm not talking about, just the coding or just the design or just it can give me full functional one. So I would say in terms of the quality, we are not there yet. We'll look into the example. But the good news is that any idea that you have when you are showering or running or walking, it doesn't matter. It's like, okay, maybe should I create a POC, test this out? Then there's this type of tools. They are great. Okay, so let's look at Lovable, which is getting a lot of love these days. Fairly new company that came to limelight, and there are a few other one, Bolt. We can look at any of them. We can look at Replit. I think I showed you guys in the second session. But fundamentally, all of them are 90% same. Okay, so what we will do is we'll try to create, let's say this is my use case. I want to create a fitness tracking dashboard. Okay. And what I want there is I want to track my workout history. I want to track my, let's say, personal records, or I want to track progress, you name it. Anything that is like, hey, I want to track calories, or I'm keeping it a very kind of basic here, just to show you. Whenever you hear the word vibe coding or AI assisted coding, and then like, hey, I build this app, then it will make sense to you. Okay. So what we'll do is we'll go to Lovable. I already have it open here. Okay. So this is the landing page. I'm logged in. And as you can see, what their value prop is, what they're telling is, hey, you can build your app, fully functional apps, like in seconds, or they used to say minutes, now they say seconds, because and it's a full stack engineer. Because what's the definition of full stack engineer? Somebody who understand the front end, back end, and right, who can design, who can develop, who can QA. So let's take this prompt and let's see how long does it take. So what I'm telling it in here is I want to create a dashboard. And I am also explicitly saying create a UI also, and add sub-base for data persistent layer. I can remove this if I want to add this data persistent layer later on. But let's see. Okay. So for most of the tools, what you will notice is when you are dealing with multiple tools, always look for patterns. Like, what are the difference between them? And what you will see is usually a 2-panel. Like this is one panel, this is second panel, and sometimes there's a third panel also. Any tool that you see in this space, in this software development, coding, is usually 3-panel. The question is why we need kind of those 3 panels. Yeah, it's obvious. One is you need where the actual work is happening. Let's say it is the AI is writing code for us. The second one is we need more of tell AI what to do, right? So this conversational interface. And we need a third one is once code is written, hey, show it to me, right? Show it to me in like people, some of the tools, ChatGPT call it a canvas. Google Gemini also recently introduced canvas. So for example, if you look into this, we are into Gemini now. So you see this canvas. So basically anything that can be visualized, it can be done within this tool. And why these companies are doing this is because they want me to keep in here. Earlier, I had to write a code in Gemini, take it, go into some other tool, and then I was like, okay, now what if we provide that to you? Okay, so this is still going on, I think. But the good thing is to understand what's happening here, you try to follow. It also tells you what it's doing, so step by step. So good to see how AI break down my requirement, which was pretty high level, into a set of steps, and then it is writing it. So do you remember what prompt we gave? We are trying to create a fitness dashboard, and then as it finishes, we will look into the UI. And so that's essentially the vibe coding is. A lot of people, they also says like, hey, I'm not even touching the keyboard. I can just talk to these tools. Okay, so what I mean is instead of manually copy pasting this, if I'm on Lovable app or any of this app, I can just speak. What I can say is like, and in fact, I did that last week when I was in the BART train here, and I was in the train, and then I just spoke to the agent for 1 minute, like, hey, I want to build this website, and then give the prompt. But it doesn't matter to me. That's an input modality, right? Whether you're giving input in voice, whether you're giving input in the in the written format. End of the day, even if you speak to it, it will transcribe, and then it will be the kind of prompt that I gave. Okay, so we can let it run and we'll come back. Okay, so looks like now it's speed up. Let's see. A beautiful fitness dashboard has been created. All right, so now see this side panel now got rendered with what it created. And as you can see that it has done a bunch of things for me. Okay, so it's a dashboard. I mentioned it to workout, so I can see my workout calendar as well. And I can see all my kind of, if I want to record what kind of workouts I'm doing. It gives the sample data as well. So this is essentially vibe coding means that enabling a known software developer to code, and not just the code, to give them a full, completely working product, apps, website, or any kind of workflow. So, but I think you can get excited, and then so where this technology is today is it is good for these kind of use cases. Yes, and I call them, these are like simple use cases and easy use cases. When you want to build hey, the question becomes, can I build a Facebook now using this, and I can throw Facebook out of the business? Or can I build a Salesforce using this, and what's stopping me from there? So the question is that building a dashboard and then building a Facebook or Salesforce example, those are enterprise platforms. Those have thousands and thousands of these things that has to come together. And the AI tools are not there yet. So, but what that means is it is still very useful. If I'm building anything new, 0 to 1, and if, let's say, that if you're a business owner and anything you want to build, you can start it. And these are kind of the questions you will get into the interview these days. All right, tell me, what tool did you use? How did you use it? What did you find useful? Did it help improve your productivity? All right, so the things like that.
Just a quick follow-up question on this kind of tools.
Yeah.
So, for example, in the enterprise scenarios, or be it small and mid to scale enterprises too, most oftentimes, like for the GTM teams, like the go-to-market teams, there might be some use cases of as deriving this kind of dashboards. Do you think that these dashboards, these kind of tools can help reduce the load on the internal teams to kind of get the data what the marketing or the customer success or the product teams might be looking at? Is it ready for that use case or not yet?
It's not out of the box. You have to connect this
Right.
tool with this to data. But yes, I think for easy, yeah. So like a lot of the function that a BA person does, right? Business
Right.
on.
Right.
So yeah. And my take is now all these BA tools, right? Anything that you were using, let's say Tableau or Looker or Power BI,
Right.
those
Right.
tools will also have the inbuilt. So you don't have to write SQL statement. You don't have to create those reports manually. Those will are also adding these kind of tools. But the startups are moving fast. I think that's the reason the big
Mm-hmm.
companies
Mm-hmm.
take time. But the answer is yes. If this
Okay.
tool, if you connect to, let's say, your wherever your data is, and then you ask it to create, then yes, it will pull it from there.
Yeah, the idea behind is because most of the time the marketing or the sales operations teams might be restricted in terms of the resources. So if this use case can be applied when the resources are restricted and the individual functions can build the dashboards to get the preliminary overview, that would be great.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think that's where there's a lot of excitement. These startups are very, very highly valued now, as if you look into their funding round. And
Right.
thesis is the same. Like,
Hmm.
hey, my marketing team don't have to go to IT or BA team. Can they self-serve themselves, right? So
Right.
that I think we are getting there.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you.
All right. So let's look at a few more things, right? So I'll spend a little time on this one because we haven't covered the agents yet. Once we covered agent, this will start to make more sense. But and I think so that's related to your question also a bit because this more model context protocol is if you look into this diagram, you have let's say different kind of data. You have data in your local, let's say, local laptop or in a Slack or some SharePoint, doesn't matter. How do you give access to these AI, access to the data or those function or API call? Because there's many different things behind the scene. So if you don't understand API, I think at a very high level, the key takeaway from this is MCP allow you to connect to these different data sources. Okay. This goes into a little bit of more detail. I'll not overrun with you. We can come back. This idea of client and server. And so usually whenever you hear hub and spoke client and server, think of that as like a client needs to ask something where it should go to the server. Okay, that's the kind of core concept. All right, so there's a couple of things that are happening on chip hardware side, and I was looking at what NVIDIA, because they're one of the top provider in that space. So there's four key takeaways. I think GPUs are getting better. There's new one, Blackwell. So do you think of GPU is what the most popular processing unit used these days? Another super important, I think, things related to AI is robotics. These are your robots powered by AI. So in future, I plan to do kind of a course on this one as well because um, this this like we are saying, okay, you'll have AI everywhere. We will have personalized robot, and which means like, are we heading to the future where every home will have a robot, humanoid robot, and every workplace will have a humanoid robot? I would say not every, but I think in there's many use cases that are coming up. Um, So let's ignore these. I think these are a little bit of more advanced concept. We'll come back to these. I think here's my take, right? Anytime a little bit of how do you stay up to date is, for example, if I want to understand what NVIDIA spent full week in talking about thing. So if you go to Perplexity and then it's like, hey, give me an overview of all the announcement that happened, and then start from a very high bucket level. On hardware, okay, there's a bunch of things, CPU, GPU. They're also going into not just the cloud hardware, they're also going into the personal computing. So they're coming up with a small computer as well. Yeah, so a couple of these platforms. Okay. So if this interests you more, go ahead and read. So let's recap. So what we looked at vibe coding, lovable example, MCP is to connect the data, and then hardware is getting better. So that's basically the key takeaways. Okay, so right, so we've been looking into these different tools over the course, right? We looked at ChatGPT, we looked at the Claude, we look at one Grok example. I showed how do you this multimodality in there. And then I found this table that showed up in my LinkedIn feed and I copied. I thought I'll show it to you. That for each of these, if you look at the first column, right, reading, writing, coding, reasoning, voice, blah, blah, right, and list will kind of will get bigger over time. Which ones are a bit of, favorite or really good at a particular task? So there is a very kind of, variations here. ChatGPT is more region storage here is this is the I think the more covers more broader like everyday answer. If you think about coding, Claude is the best. Okay. So video generation, Google is doing really good image and video multimodality, and yeah. So computer uses this is MCP that we are talking about. So I think see this there will be so many tools, and to me it's like you don't have to read or learn even more than three, or I would say cap it to three, and then pick which one. Let's say if you want to write software, then I would say definitely Claude. Or otherwise, for the most part, ChatGPT and Gemini should be good enough for you. If you really want to geek out, I'll just spend 5 seconds. You remember we looked at the Hugging Face? Okay, so Hugging Face is a place where all these kind of the AI model get published, and to see what kind of task these models can do. So if you go to Hugging Face and task, then you can see a big list of more bucketized use cases. These are multimodality, text to audio, natural language processing, like how human talks to machine and machine talks back to human. Vision, just like we have a vision, now these model also have a vision. Audio. So I think the key thing in here is some of these pieces I'm showing. If it's more interest to you, you should go and explore more. Okay. All right, so let me show you two use cases that I started to enjoy a lot more. And this will probably come later, but let's look at these two. Okay. How many of you use Twitter? And Twitter is a lot of, right? So as you know, it's kind of mindless scrolling to a point where there's people are putting, let's say, all kind of things, right? If I look into my feed, it's full of memes and good news and bad news, and then right, super confusing, and then. But there's two ways how Grok is integrated, and and I'm showing the Grok example, but here's two takeaways for you guys. AI is getting integrated into our world in two ways. One is we have these interfaces like ChatGPT, and then which are like you directly go to this chat interface, and then you're not coming from a predefined context or a predefined data or a use case, right? I'm asking it here. That's number one. Number two is you have the already, let's say, in the context of this tweet, or think of in case of Word, in the context of this file. That's the second. I call it like the embedded AI or the contextual AI, which is in the context of what basically the my workflow is and my. So I'll show you the let's say if you ask a question to a lot of people. Okay, so let's say for example I'll pick one example for you guys here from my bookmark. So if we look into this one, what Elon Musk posted is, hey, tell me the feedback for improving X algorithm in replies. Be as specific as possible, include examples. And if you see, there's 54,000 people replied. So before AI, it was like, okay, let me go in here in all these, and try to understand what's going on. Who is, and this is the Twitter. The big problem there is a lot of bots, and then they throw unnecessary information. So it's very hard to synthesize. Now, what I can do is now everywhere this icon now showing up to me. So I can just say, okay, explain this post to me. And let's see. Okay. Right. So it's basically giving me this is explaining this post. But what I'm interested in is, for example, what are the top 10 ask based on the comments? Because if I'm a product manager, I need to know which are the top things out of those 54,000 comments people are asking. So then I'll do a follow-up to AI, something like this. And that saves me a lot of time. So now it gives me okay, so it's how useful it is to me to understand what are the requirements from the user. Prioritize most recent post, reduce. So the reason I'm showing you this is many times the broader AI is not very helpful for given the type of task that you have. But if you're using it in the context of your existing data, existing conversations, existing documents, then it becomes super, super useful. So in this case, it gave me these top 10 things that I should work on. And it also giving me the citation so I can go and check, if I need to click and then see that AI is not making up. Okay. And of course everybody has their own standalone app as well, but I found this particular use case helpful. Whenever people send or you see a new term, you can directly say, hey, can you explain this to me? Explain this post. So I thought it's a good use case. Okay. So Notebook LM. One great feature that I found really, really helpful is, and so to keep the demo short, let me show you a video that I posted and recorded. So you remember we looked at the Notebook LM. Just to refresh your memories, what you can do is you can bring different sources that you're learning from, PDFs, audio, video, it doesn't matter. Then it can give you overview. It can give you, hey, give me the briefing of all these documents. Let's say how many files I uploaded here, right? It can give me frequently asked questions. But one thing I found missing was, because the way my mind learned is creating this tree or the mind map. Okay. And this week, they added the mind map capability. And I'm like, okay, that's super cool. So let me show you. It's a short video. So now think of any complex topic you are learning. It's very easily you can it can kind of create the mind map for you. Okay, so let me go back one more. And this is the one. So, for example, I was talking about MCP, and I was like, okay, I need to understand MCP. So let me. Looks like the LinkedIn is slow. Okay, so let me take it full screen. Full screen doesn't work. Keep small. Okay, so I'll pause it. So basically, what I did was I uploaded a big MCP file, and this is the mind map feature. Okay, so now if I need to see, okay, what are different components of mind, basically MCP, then it was able to give this visual map, and I can click on each of those branches and I can see what's kind of, how it all comes together. If you are a visual learner like me, super powerful stuff. And I thought I'll share it with you, the mind map. FAQ is already there. Super easy to create these FAQ. So for example, let's say if I need to create FAQ for this is the stuff that I'm learning, how do we make agents better from testing and monitoring? Within a few seconds, I click on this one and voila. Now I can easily digest the information across these maybe 200 pages of kind of PDFs. Okay. So this mind map is what caught my eyes, and then
Hey Manjit, can you quickly show how to generate mind maps?
so the feature is selectively rolled out. What you will see is, I think in a week from now, I have it in my another account. You will have the button here, mind map.
Okay.
Okay, Google is rolling it out, and then I think usually these days it take 2 weeks to they start with some power users and then get feedback and then roll it out. So it's a pre-built. You don't have to do anything extra. It'll show up. Click on the right. So for example, there you see in this video mind map.
Yeah.
Okay, so it'll be here. Okay, so I want to spend some time on agents. We'll not be able to go super deep, but let me demystify what AI agents are, and I'll give you more concrete. For some of these things, I think one way I found is to understand is if you look at history, like what's happening and how we ended up into the agent, why we are talking about it so much. So this GIF file is one way to kind of see, right? Let me go into block by block. When LLM became, let's say ChatGPT came, you ask a question, ChatGPT take your questions and give you an answer. Okay, that was fine. Then then problem became, or like the follow-up requirement became is, oh, I want these LLM to answer from my documents. That's where RAG came into life. Okay. I want to give input, but I want it to LLM to understand my documents, one document at a time. But then all the enterprise customers and users, they was like, no, we have thousands of documents. We have all these unstructured data, and then that's the RAG one. I'm happy to cover if you guys have interest in RAG in the future classes. Then so far nobody was talking about agents. Then what happened was these models became multi-model, not just the audio, or sorry, not just the text, it's audio and video. So that's where multimodality became possible. And as this was happening, people were like, hey, can this thing, what if we automate this? What if we don't even have to have the human in the loop for those actions? How about we create an independent entity, and I'll explain what that definition of the entity is. And that's where kind of we are now moving toward these, think of more complex use cases, and then this idea of the agent. So there's a lot of definitions of agent. I found this one helpful because this was shared by Blitzscaling Ventures, and then and it resonated with me because we want to understand what's the definition, what is the attribute, and do you have an example for that or not, right? So very quickly, if you see agent is end of the day, it's a software piece, but it can reason about the situation. It can take action, which is super important, and then it can learn. So these are the attributes, that anything that can reason may take actions and learn. So I'll show you some kind of real examples, but that's kind of the core idea. So before I show you a live example, this is how I explain to our customer. If we take a customer support agent, and let's say customer support agent is handling, in case of we have Agentforce platform, and let's say it's a retail use case. Okay, if you are a retail customer or e-commerce customers, you want these agents to handle when people reach out to you about order management, about cancellations, about return, about right. That's the reason many times we, as a consumer, reach out to these vendors, right? So you ask the agent, and then agent is, as I was saying, it has the ability to plan, it has the ability to reason. So this is that bucket. And then the action, which is execution, then it has the ability to figure it out. Okay, if user is asking for return, how can I make sure that it's within the return window or it's within the warranty? And then so those are different actions in here. You look up the order, and then you finally do the action. Okay, at a very high level. So how these agents are getting integrated, you would not even know that because see, these chatbots are there in the website from last, well, I would say 7 years. Many websites have chatbots, and but to show you a difference, for example, one of our customer, Equinox, if you go to they're a fitness company, okay. So, and quickly understanding that, or if you go to Amazon.com or any of them, the way we have been used to of finding things, right? A website will have a search box, and then you will have these couple of tabs. Okay, if I need to find out my member benefit, I'll go to member benefit and figure it out. Or if I need to find out classes, this is how the website or information is organized, right? But that's not the, I think, yeah. So where this like, okay, is this the best way to consume information and show information to user? What about we can give this agents right here, where you can ask anything and you don't have to go and dig into right, all these different tabs and then sub tabs and then finding yourself lost. Anything I need, I'll come and ask here. If I and that's where I think these shopping agents are becoming super popular. If you want to buy something, and I'm one of them, where it's like I have hard time making decision. What do I need to kind of buy, as if it's a new item, and these agents can give you. They can compare different products. They can tell you which one is good. And so in this case, let's say let's say if I'm new in this town, what are your, let's say, fitness location? So then essentially what it does is it goes into I don't even see where should I find my fitness kind of locations here, but I can directly ask here. Now this agent is going into this entire website data and maybe more data behind the scene, and can also ask the follow-up question, because I see I didn't provide where am I, and my website have those location tracking disabled, otherwise it would have picked up from there. So for example, if I can say I'm in California, I'm showing a very simple example, but the key thing in here is if I go back to kind of, this kind of scenario, you can apply it into a simple task or a complex task. So now what's happening is there's different types of agents are being built. And there's 3 categories that you will see. A horizontal agent, which means more broader, that can handle many different type of tasks. A vertical agent for a specific role. I am a lawyer, I'm a architect, or I'm a software developer, and then so these are kind of the vertical agents. So as you can see, the space is fully blowing up super fast. There's so many companies kind of the companies who already play in that space, they want to have agents, and then of course the a lot of startup is like, okay, we can build it for you. The key thing is if you can define what an agent should do, what it means is the role, right? Because if I go back to this slide, for each of these are there different roles. Like this is sales role, this is marketing role, this is lawyers, and then let's say, right, personal trainer, for example. Now, to break this up, the way to think about agent is, okay, what is the role? What data this agent should have access to? What action I should give it to? What action should it not take? Uh, and then you can also define the that you used to call like standard operating procedure. Now these days it's called guardrails and policies, and then the security, like don't do this, don't do this, and where you want to show this agent. So for example, I'm looking in here. Now it answers my question here. There's like, right, hey, here are the 3 Equinix location. And this is integrated into the web channel. Now you can integrate into any channel you can think of. These days, WhatsApp. I don't know if you guys checked it. WhatsApp also have agents now behind the scene. Or your mobile apps, and then so this right now most of it is conversational interface, but where we are going into is voice that's happening fast. And typically think of when you call, like, right, instead of chatting, what if I call Equinix on the phone, like 800 Equinix? Then also there is an agent behind the scene. It's the voice agent. It takes your call. If this cannot handle, then it hand it off to the human. So that's kind of the flow. At a high level, now what's happening is most of the companies, they will show some sort of this diagram. Okay, and the reason I'm a little bit of touching base on this one is, as I was saying, AI sandwich. So similar to like, what does that agent sandwich look like? There's infrastructures, there is these models we're talking about, OpenAI model, Google Gemini models. And then that's where these agents are being built. Okay, coding agents, data agents. Sweta, you're asking about to me, that would, if I have to build an agent for that use case for business user, I will build a data analysis agent for them, right? For marketing scenario. So then they can ask agents to, it's like, hey, I'm going in front of this customer, and then pull me all the information that will, and create me the analysis, the AI analysis. Okay. But I think a lot of people, what they miss out is to have this agent behind the scene. There's a lot of software engineering is still required, and where the software engineering goes into is all of these layers: platform, models, data, infrastructures, and then so you don't have to worry about all of them. I'll highlight few that you need some sort of LLM, okay, which is model. You need some sort of RAG/MCP, which is you can connect to your data. Okay. If you want to connect with another platform, and then you also need those integration with them. You need memory, because these are multi-turn conversations, right? I'm having back and forth. So it should remember what I asked, like in what was my first question, what did I provide, and then so that's basically the memory. And sometimes this conversation can be very long, and then they should know. And then of course the system has to be secure. So that's basically a bit of kind of agent. Another term that's getting thrown around a lot is agentic AI, or agentic workflow, and then so it's simple. If you break it down into the like what agents can do and what the heck is agentic AI, where we should apply. So agent is very specified set of tasks, right? Let's say going back to this example, it's a conversational, I can ask in here. But if I want to have the entire workflow built out, and it should support conversational interface, it should support my regular, let's say the dashboard and reports and those. It's the same concept behind the scene, that you want these actions to be happen autonomously. And anytime you hear the word agent or agentic, that means, okay, this thing can reason, this thing can plan, this thing can take action. And that's what basically it comes down to. There's 2 flavors. How do you implement? You can implement them in the this conversational or you can implement them as part of the workflow. Okay. Now, any AI you are chatting to or connecting with, I found this example pretty helpful, is because every company will come and tell you, oh, we have built this, we use multiple tools, we have planning capability, and that's what differentiate a good agentic system or agent. You ask a questions, broad questions like this. You can ask like, hey, what is the best number? Okay. If your answer is something like this, it is 73, then usually it's LLM only behind the scene. Why? Because LLM can just make a guess. They can like, oh, they hallucinate, or in this case, they without any reasoning, without any asking you to follow up. What do you mean? In what context are you asking about? Or so now if your answer is like, oh, I searched the internet and blah blah whatever, this example, let's say, oh, internet, and Sheldon Cooper said it's 73. Sheldon Cooper is a character from the TV series. So then basically it looks like, oh, it went into some data, which means there was a RAG, or there was a tool used, or there was MCP used. Okay. Or if it comes back to you like, oh, I need to know why you want the best number. So which means, okay, now it's an AI then asking you, it's interacting with you, it need more information. It will not go and just either make it up for you or search from the database. It needs more understanding before it gives you the result. So that's how you see that the difference between when you ask this, I'm asking the same question, but how these systems are coming back to me, and then before they give you the answer, and then okay. So
Manju, quick question here.
yeah.
So the one that you were talking about earlier, model context protocol, where would that fit in terms of this kind of reasoning? Would it be in the like the reflection, or is it LLM versus MCP that you were talking about?
So that's basically sit in the middle. Usually it comes into play the tool calling and then multi-agent. That's the two functionalities. So if I go back to that little diagram we had, okay. So for tool calling and for accessing the data.
Okay.
So those are I think the two scenarios. And some of these are kind of behind the scene, right? So you don't, the reason I'm not explicitly saying, oh, this RAG is used, and then those are usually not user facing. This is your internal architecture, how you have built, how your AI is able to access the data. I think that's what it comes down to.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. So let me give a quick preview. We only have a few minutes left, but I think what's happening now is, okay, now this, as we saw, if people can build app, if people can have their agents, then what's happening in the interviewing phase. So let me show you a couple of my favorite interview questions that I've been asking. Usually I ask something, not exactly, but something along the line like, hey, how do you use AI? I just basically ask this one. Okay, and these are my follow-ups. And then I don't care which tool you tell, let's say if you and I are chatting, which tools you mention. I want to understand, okay, and then I'm expecting for examples, okay? Another question I usually ask is, how do you stay up to date? And so that's where I think you have to be, if you are, let's say, looking at the next set of interview skills where these things are going, is you need to think deeply and then think about what's my personal workflow of learning and staying up to date. Okay, so these are, and if depending on that, what role kind of you are being interviewing for, if it's more, let's say, research and then marketing and sales, and then you may be asked some flavor of this question like, hey, use whatever AI tool because there's two school of thoughts. You're saying, oh, you're not allowed to use AI, right? And in fact, if people use AI, if you cheat, I feel it is cheating. I challenge it other way. Use whatever AI you can, but I'll time bound you. I'll tell you only 30 minutes, and then I'll give you a problem statement. Can you solve it for me? I don't know whether you solve it from your brain or you solve with the help of AI. And then you have to come back and explain it to me. So I think these 2-3 flavors of questions, what's your personal workflow, how it's helping you, your team, and then can you use it now to so we'll go into more detail, I think, in next week, basically where we are heading into this kind of K-shaped economy, uh, where 20% of the job skills will become 10x more productive because the use of AI. There are many different type of roles, right? As we were talking earlier, um, and they're not as every role is same. I think when you think about a role, you need to look at all the granular task, what specific task, right? And that's where I liked, don't think of your job as a one big thing. You need to see it as a bundle of tasks. Like in my role, like product management, there's actually like 20 tasks, different granular tasks I do. And now I need to think about, okay, not as a kind of automating the entire product role, but also the specific part of that job. So we'll go into more, and then we'll look into more of like, okay, what's the roadmap looking like? Okay. So thank you for joining today. I can stay for 2 more minutes if you have questions, but just to recap, what did we cover is we looked at what's happening, we looked at vibe coding, we looked at growth example, we started with AI agents, and then touching on to and maybe in the next one, if you guys are interested, I can really take to one concrete example and spend 5-10 minutes on how those interviews go these days. Okay. Was this helpful?
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you, Manjeet.
Manjit, one question.
Yeah.
So, like, there's something called large concept models these days, like that's been in the news, like that's new compared to LLMs. What are they? Do we have some
Say again, I
information
missed the
there?
term. Which one?
Large concept models,
Right.
LCM.
Yeah, see, there is a different SLM, function calling models. So think of the best way to think of them is it's basically again the large model, okay, but it is built for a specific type of task, and specifically those models are the needs are coming when you think about these vertical agents. Okay, so let's say one job function require more of a let's say in building an agent where, let's say in a doctor's workflow, and you need to there's a lot of concepts involved. Then what they do is they fine tune the model with those concepts and call them concept model. So
Okay.
it's specific to a type of work. Large language model are more generic. Okay, because there's this language, they're like any language that we support. But in some cases, like, okay, language is important, of course, but then what's important is some sort of concept. Then you feed that concept knowledge.
Okay.
Okay.
Manjit, how can we take a generic LLM and train it with our custom data? Like, will that be covered in this course?
I can cover. I mean, see, it's pretty easy these days. So, for example, I use 2 of them. The one is the Google Studio. Okay. So, which is basically the playgrounds for building, training, and so here, yeah, you can. But there's a little bit of, I would say, in the advanced one. If you want to play, I'll tell you one easy one. If you want to kind of try out on your laptop. So LLM Studio. Okay. In fact, there's 2 products, LLM Studio and Olama. This is a local one. If you want to get a hang of how to fine tune, how to kind of train, and then so what you do is you download this on it works for both Mac and Windows. And it's pretty intuitive. It also has UI now. Earlier they didn't have the UI. And you can upload your documents or upload whatever, let's say in this case, concepts. And I want to convert this model into more of a concept one, or I want to convert this model into, let's say, one way I tried this is, I'm like, hey, can these models generate my images, right? Manjeet's images. So what I did was I got my 50 of my pictures, and then I uploaded those, and then let it go through the training, and then I asked it to create Manjeet in the form of Spider-Man. Yeah, it was able to do because it created a Spider-Man picture, and then because now it know my from that additional training what my face looked like. Um, so it was not like I was not very happy with the results. This was a couple of months ago, and now these probably are. If I try now, it'll be a little better.
Cool. Got it.
Okay. All right, guys. Enjoy your weekend, and then I'll see you next week. Thank you.